I'm looking at maybe just in the aspect of sharing, looking at the disruption that higher education in Kenya went through during COVID and how we have emerged. And I think this is an interesting one because I'm looking at Ukraine and I know you have, just before the world could heal from COVID, then you had the issue of war. And I know for you is a double tragedy. But basically to say that higher of course, we are aware that the COVID pandemic affected every organization, irrespective of the sector, and indeed irrespective of the country or the side of the world that you are in. And that having said that, of course, higher education was not left behind. And in Kenya, the education was equally disrupted as in any other country. And we were not very prepared, I would say that. And this is not new, especially to quite a number of countries in terms of how they would proceed from, when pandemic hit. And in Kenya, just before COVID, the education system was very stable amid the changes that, especially in our country, that the government was making in terms of the curricula. We are in the verge of moving to competence-based curricula, which is at the initial implementation stage. And we are hoping by 2029, the university will be receiving students who are coming from the system. So that was the main thing that was happening. However, then the COVID hit, and that is the distribution of the university. We have about over 70 universities, and almost half being the public, meaning mainly those ones are funded by the government. And then we have about 35 which are private. And these are mostly church-based and sponsored. The other thing, of course, before COVID is that a number of universities never prioritized investment in technology. And that is why they were hard hit when COVID came, because they were not prepared for that aspect. When COVID hit, of course, the university had to think quickly, and of those that were able to have a smooth transition, and I'll say smooth in quotes, because not I don't think there is any organization that had a transition, because this was not foreseen. But we had quite a number of universities trying to finish up what was left using some methods such as emails, social medias, platform, and all that. Few, like our university, had a I would say well-established learning management system, and this allowed us to complete the learning process for that first semester for 2020. And we also saw that even the government regulators were not prepared for this. They were also playing catch-up game with the shift that universities were making to move their education online. So that was happening. And there was also the fact that organization had to sit down and strategically plan on measures to ensure that there is smooth learning that take place. Nevertheless, economies were hit, and parents and sponsors for students or learners could not manage really to pay fees. Some could not manage to pay fees, and also to cater for cost to buy gadgets that required students to learn remotely. So there was a bit of disruption, and that resulted to some students, of course, being left out in maybe for a semester or two, because most of the Kenyan learners, and this may also be replicated in Africa, is that we have quite a number of areas where internet access was a challenge, power access was a challenge, and basically also the gadgets accessibility and possession was also in question. However, this is one of the things that probably, if you look at it now, has changed. And that is part of what we can say has been the result of COVID. So if you look at the innovation to deal with COVID, we have seen quite a number of them coming from organizations, but also partners that worked with learning institutions to try and bridge the gap that was created, and the need that was created by remote learning and the disruption that came about. Of course, these are some of the common ways in which institutions have embraced so far. Social media platform, we had video conferencing that were not common, Google Classroom, and also the likes of Zoom, of course, among others. These have now become common and almost acceptable in almost every institution. Telecom companies they were also very heavily invested, and they were supportive and almost becoming, we could almost see some convergence between higher education institution and also the telco in trying to bridge the gap. So that is part of what was coming out. Looking back, we can say that most institutions, most higher learning institutions, and not just higher learning institutions, but even at the lower level, we have seen lot of acceptance of technology and adoption of the same in how learning is done, even when, of course, we've gone back to campus or the physical mode. And there is also, we can also see there is heavy infrastructure development in terms of technology, but also anything else that is supporting remote learning. And there is evident that, of course, even where we are going back to physical classes, there is evidence that online learning is here to stay. And we are happy to note that most university and institutions here have invested in not just technology, but also training their faculty and students so that they are up to speed in that. So the other thing we have also seen is that, of course, this was a very rapid change, but we have seen organization institutionalizing some of the strategies or some of the innovations or solutions that came about during this pandemic. So this is probably just a snapshot of higher education and what happened, during COVID, and probably where we are and moving forward. So thank you for your time. Over to you.